This is Eric Wayne. Here I'm going to try and show you a couple of things. I want to show you a recent air conditioning business. I'll show you some closing documents that are redacted. I'll show you how we do add backs, which is how a business is really valued based on all of the owner benefits. And then I'll take you over to the association and I'll spend a few minutes showing you some of the solds. Give me about 15-20 minutes if you don't mind. I don't charge for this. Hopefully we'll earn your business. You'll see that we know what we're doing. I've been doing this since 32 years now, almost 33 years. So I'm a top producer in the area and very, very familiar with the air conditioning HVAC industry. We'd love to talk to you more. I'm familiar with the industry. We have buyers actually in my database. We have a staff of 10 people and they are dealing with buyers that are looking for this type of industry. We've sold other listings. They're looking for the next ones that are coming up. We wouldn't have any problem selling it if the financials check out and the seller and buyer are reasonable with one another. What seems to happen is when we approach a seller or an owner and we're bringing them into the market and they really weren't ready, they come in too high. And then the market, it sits on the market. So, I mean, we have a roofing company that wants $5 million or 3.2. There's another one. And, they're only making, $250 a year or whatever. So we can't really get that for them. And we tell them that they want to try for it. So we oblige. I have 3 items here I would just like to share with you real quick. This is a P&L statement. As you can see, we take the gross sales and then we're looking for any of what we call add backs that maybe enhance the income, maybe numbers that didn't hit the tax returns or numbers that didn't hit the bank statements. We could talk about that more, in private if you'd like. But we go through and we look at, additional benefits of being the owner. So these were expenses that were stated, and then we give the adjustment and the reason for the adjustment, and then the actual, so that an owner can see or a buyer can see, okay, this is what's, maybe on their tax returns, expenses, they're only showing this, it comes out to a number. And then ultimately it comes down here. So they might have said 94,000 was stated, maybe tax returns, P&L, and then we, identify the add backs, and it actually came out to 250 was a true owner benefit. So obviously a business that is netting the owner 94 is not as valuable as a business netting an owner 250. So we were able to get him, he did a pretty quick sale and we sold it for 400, I think it was. We got under contract after we had the financials. We contacted some of our prospects. It was a $400,000 sale. You see it was broken down 2 different deposits. Over here we came in with cashier's check, 400 total. But this is a BBF, Business Brokers of Florida Association. It's an association of business brokers that specialize in small businesses like myself. It's the #1 largest association of business brokers in the country, happens to be here in Florida. And we all have teams for the most part. If you count my technical and my social media and all that, it's 12 of us. We're, considered a pretty sizable operation. And we'd love to do more. So we like the air conditioning AC business. As you can see, this association document, it's 17 pages long. The buyer initials it when they make an offer. The seller initials it when they accept. It's signed at the end. You don't need attorneys really to draft all this because the association attorneys and head brokers of major firms have crafted this over the years. If you want to have an attorney read it, you want to have an attorney at the closing, that's all cool. Here we had the listing and we had the buyer. I handled both sides of it personally. And then there's some clauses that were put in there and so forth. You can see the signature dates and so forth. So you get an idea on that. And then these were the actual closing statements, closing documents that an attorney needs to come up with. It talks about where the money's going, transaction fees, closing costs, UCC, liens and so forth. So the attorney had them sign that. There's a bill of sale that's included. So anyhow, these are all the clauses. So again, you save a fortune on attorney's fees because they don't have to start from scratch on this. We have all these clauses and documents and how it's supposed to be laid out. As you can see, there's a lot of work involved in the closing attorney, and so forth. All right. So let me go to the actual association with you and share with you how businesses are actually valued, which is kind of what the big deal is as far as figuring out for valuation. We look at the solds, and with the solds, we use the association database. It's 20 years old, which is a good thing. There's 22,000 solds in here that we pull from, similar to an MLS for residential, when you want to see what your neighbor's house was sold for, and you look at the square footage, you look at the bedrooms, a pool, a lake, no lake, all those variables. That's how this is kind of done, but we're interested really in the adjusted net, the assets, the type of industry, the county, those kind of things. So what we do, first I'm going to look at all of Florida with you, but only show you the HVAC and heating industry. So we have all Florida, there's 67 counties, I'm going to show them all to you. I'm going to pull up all 20 years. I'm not going to put any restriction as maximum down payment or adjusted net on the first search. I'm going to do 3 searches for you. I'm also going to do all sources of data, so you're going to get a blend of ratios. Only 20% of the solds are actually all on the tax return. Another 20% or so is owner approved, and then there's other ways of proving the financials. So when I click on here, it's because I don't know how we're really going to prove the financials. When I know the financials and I have some more information like asset value and things like that, then I can be more detailed and more exact. Because then I'll compare you to only businesses that were on the tax return or only annualized or only, and we can get more narrow. I could do it with comments, so you can kind of see that these are big boys also. Not this search, but the second one that I think is more relevant with larger businesses. So I'm going to search this. I'm going to adjust it by what we call the adjusted net. The adjusted net is what I was just showing you on the P&L with the add backs. Now these are much smaller businesses, but we have much larger businesses than yours too. There's 179 total in the association. So out of 22,000 solds, 20 years, all these specialists like myself, the largest one we did, the adjusted net was 1.8, sales of 11 million, and it sold for 6.5. There was 179 of them that sold, but that's looking at 20 years history. These guys are obviously larger than the $3 million price point. I can sort this by sales. I chose to do it by adjusted net because what I found in my next search was you should be, if you're in the group of $1 million to $3 million, netting over 300, you figure about 24.7 should be the adjusted net on average. Let's assume 24.7 on 3 million. I'm going to assume you're in the 700s adjusted net. So if that were true, you're up against these big boys. So then we want to look at your asset value compared to their asset value and the ratio of the adjusted net versus what they actually sold for. So those are the ones that I would put into my comps, my comparables. But for right now, I just wanted to share that the database has all this. The association and the members of the association, we co-broke with all of the fellow agents. What is co-broking? Well, when you offer a commission, I'm motivating through you on behalf of you. I'm motivating them to bring all of their buyers to my listings. So if there's a minimum, let's say 10%, 12% commission or a minimum of $50,000, it would either be half the dollar amount or half the percentage goes to the buyer's side and half of it goes towards the listing side. So that's generally how it works. So beating us up on commission isn't the best way to market your business because 95% of most small business sales, the buyers use buyer's agents because they're free. They're knowledgeable. They have access to all of the listings. So those agents get compensated from the listing agent. In this case, I would be the listing agent. And I would be offering half the commission. So if my commission is not competitive, I won't get the showings. The buyer's agents will shop commissions and bring their qualified buyers that you and I both need to different listings that maybe offer 1 extra percentage point or a better minimum or that kind of thing. So it's really 2 sales. We have to sell the buyer's agent to cooperate with us, which is the minimum commission, the commission or the minimum. There's both on the listing agreement. And also it has to be a fair competitive deal to the buyer. But we have to get the buyer over to us, and usually that's through a buyer's agent. So we have to pay the maitre d' and then tip the waiter. Okay, that kind of thing. All right. So let me do another search for you. Okay, I'm back to the AC. And I'm going to put some qualifiers in here. I'm going to say minimum $1 million, right, as a smaller business, and $3 million. Now, they don't really care so much about the gross as much as they do the adjusted net. So once we identify what your adjusted net is, then we'll know the lifestyle that we're selling, the business value that we're selling with the assets. Is there real estate? Is there no real estate? I've got a lot of unanswered questions, but just for now, I'm going to compare you to anybody making over 300, $1 million to 3 million. We can get more narrow. I can go up to 500. We could really pare it down, and I can do dates, which I'm going to do later. I don't want to do that just yet. So this is just this year. What sold this year? If you really wanted to be more narrow, I would go to March and see, the coronavirus. What sold, when, from the inception of the coronavirus and compare it to what's actually going on in today's market. But all right, and we're going to go all sources. I'm going to do with comments. And this will give you a little bit more, a narrow of a search. This will be a smaller grouping. My smallest one, adjusted net, was 370, and there's 7 of them. So let me just do the assets are important too. Here, The asset's only 5,000. How is that possible, right? We have to read in here and see if there's any real estate. I have some homework to do, but I need some numbers. I need to know what is the current used asset value of your furniture, your fixtures, and your equipment. Are we competing, in the 228 category? We have 150. We got three. I need to know these answers. But just for tonight, just as an overview, just as an introduction, I'm hoping this is helpful for you. These are some averages. All right. What do these mean? Well, I can tell you it's almost 10 months on the market. I can tell you that as an average from the time that we're priced properly and we have all of our financials, we have the ad backs, we have it signed off, we're advertising on all, the sites, getting in touch with all of our fellow agents. This one took over a year. This one took almost a year. This one took over a year, 53 days. Why do some sell faster than others? The database has a lot to do with it, and the agent, how aggressive and hungry the agent is. But so those are days on market. The sold price to adjusted net. If you were making $100,000 and you wanted to figure the sold price, this number versus this number, you wanted to get a ratio. That's what this is. It's basically saying this lifestyle is worth this much to the sales price. This lifestyle is worth this much. But first we need to figure out what this lifestyle truly is, and that is not the number on your tax return necessarily. It's only 20% of the businesses, 1 out of 5, actually sell on the tax return. So when we identify what the true adjusted net is, then we would figure a ratio of who we should be comparing you to. I wouldn't compare you to all of these because I don't know the value of your assets. I don't know your motivation to sell. I don't know, if you're willing to hold seller financing. There's a whole bunch of questions that I have. But the blend of all of these was 275, 86% down payment. Like this guy got 100% all cash, which is a beautiful thing at 1.4, right? But he only got 1.76 times earnings. This guy got 93, right? But he got a higher ratio. He got an extra year's earnings. He sold it for 1.55 on 5.61. So if you're willing to hold a little paper, maybe we can get a higher ratio. So there's all kinds of tricks and ways to look at this. The average was 86 cents on a dollar. So most, I'm going to say a lot of them don't get 100%, even though we'd like to try and do that. We do have a good track record with cash buyers. 1%, we call it 2%, rent versus sales as a ratio. We can see how you size up, your business sizes up comparison. I don't have that information, so I can't do an analysis. The sold price versus the adjusted net. This is the relevant number. Now, I have to look in here and see if there was any real estate that's artificially kicking this up, because there might have been a building involved or land or a condo or something like that might have kicked this up, or excessive assets. And again, I got to go back and look at that. But if you wanted to say 2 years earnings and the adjusted net as a group, call it 25% times 2, right? So on 3 million, 24.7, it comes out to 716,000 adjusted net. It would put you in the average of this group if this is the right group to be comparing you to. If you doubled that, you'd be looking at 1.4, maybe 1.5 million. Very respectable. Let me do one more search for you. And again, if we work together, I'm happy to go do as many searches as you'd like. Tonight, I'm going to do quick 3. I just wanted to show you what's going on in Collier County. We are familiar with it. I've been out there. Okay, and we're, again, looking at HVAC. And I'm not putting dates on here. So this is going to go back 20 years, association. The one criteria I'm putting in is the county. I want to show you what's been going on in your neighborhood, because that also affects price. How much wealth there is, how much demand there is, the density, all that stuff. There were 5 of them that actually sold. As you can see, I sorted it by adjusted net. The adjusted net from 68, which is, by comparison, very small. This guy had $250,000 to make, an equipment to make 169. He's heavily weighted here. And it sold for 300. So he didn't get very much for the profits. He pretty much mostly equipment. So here, this guy may be in your ballpark, right? But he had $1 million worth of assets, and it sold for 2.2 million, and only 220 down payment. So you can see that's like 10%. He might have gotten a nice ratio, right? He got a nice number here. He got almost 3 times earnings. So let's calculate them. Let's see what it came out to. Here's 2.9, right? It took 199 days. The average, his margins were really good. 32 versus 22 versus 19 versus 16 versus 20. And the average, the blend of what happened in Collier County. Now, this wouldn't be comparable because we have smaller businesses plugged in here. 1.14. Okay, so again, call it 2 years. I cleaned this up a little bit. I'm figuring maybe 2 years earnings. Again, 1.5 rent, 67 cents on a dollar down payment, 2.244 days on market. 22% adjusted net versus sales. So that's pretty much where we are. All right. I hope this helped a little bit. Hope maybe you're serious about maybe letting us see what we can bring you. We do this every day. My team would love to represent this. We've done this before. Again, it's Eric, your favorite business broker. EricSellMyBusiness.com is the website, and my cell is 954-562-2019. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.